Brandon Aiyuk is dissatisfied. He wants a better deal from the 49ers. He's going to not hold out, but he's going to wait until he gets it. How do you imagine his teammates feel about, do you think they think he's being selfish, or do you think they support him?
They are 100% in his corner. It's I don't even have to be in the locker room to know. It's not like Nick Bosa is walking around saying, "Who does Aiyuk think he is?" He has to be I don't have to be a team player like that, but he has to be a team player and take what the organization gives him. No, the players stand up for one another. They feel Aiyuk is a heck of a player, and he deserves whatever he can get by any means he can get it.
Yes.
And I'll add one other thing. Players don't really like management.
No.
Think about it. Management is the boss.
Mhm.
How many people love their boss or that kind of thing? What they look at management as, they don't pay me enough.
Mhm.
They don't really care about me. If I get hurt, they'll put somebody else in. They can trade me. They can ask me to renegotiate my contract. I play for this team because I like the other players, because I want to win, and maybe I like the coach. But as far as the front office, absolutely not. So the players see Aiyuk as standing up for them against the front office.
Right. And the front office of the Niners, they always want to make themselves seem like they're a pro player. Hey, we just want to have a good relationship. It's sort of a family atmosphere around here. Jed York really said that at the owners' meeting last week. But so that's one thing. That's what they say. But then they cut Eric Armstead. And the players really like Eric Armstead. He's the longest tenured player on the team. A lot of them look up to him. And they see that the Niners try to slash his salary from $18 million down to $6 million. And they're thinking, oh my God, if they're going to do that to Eric Armstead, if they're going to play hardball with Brandon Aiyuk, and if they like trade him, what does that mean for me? I'm not as good as those two guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, if Jed can try to portray it as a family atmosphere, now he may believe it or he may be telling a fib. It may be a family atmosphere in the locker room, but he's not in the family.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in that family. He really isn't in the locker room that much. He has nothing to do with it. He is the stern uncle who they want him to leave them money in the will, but they never see him.
Right. And the players want to feel like they're in an organization where if they do everything right, if they work hard, do all the OTAs and mini camps, have Pro Bowl seasons, become one of the best at their position, that they'll get taken care of, that they'll get rewarded. And for the last 4 or 5 years, the Niners were that team. They traded Buckner, but they took care of Armstead, Warner, Bosa, Kittle, D-Bus, 5 guys. And now this offseason, it seems a little different. All of a sudden, they cut Eric Armstead. They might be a little reluctant to pay Brandon Aiyuk what some players feel he's earned. And maybe players are saying, what's going on?
Oh, players on every team say what's going on. When Kyle says it's a family, it's an illusion. Right. It's maybe his fantasy. It's not how players look at it. And players very much now, with all this free agency stuff, are mercenaries.
Yeah.
When they play for the team, they play very hard for the team. But they're out for themselves primarily. And listen, it's not a criticism. It's merely a description. They're out for themselves. They're not thinking, oh, I'm a lifelong 49er, the way, in baseball, Willie Mays, they did trade him at the end to the Mets, but he was a giant. They don't feel that way anymore. I'm a 49er. It's not like that. Now, I think it was like that to a certain extent under Eddie.
Yeah.
I think he did try very hard to have a family atmosphere. And, every few years he has a whole big party for former 49ers. He had one in Vegas, and he invites everyone. He has a lot of money, and he tries to reinforce the family atmosphere. Can you imagine Jed doing that? And
Mhm.
would you even think the players would want to socialize with him?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the family atmosphere that the Niners have created is that little clique of players that are very, very wealthy that uh, vacation together. And it seems like that clique of players think Brandon Aiyuk has earned um, entrance into the club. I was in the locker room. It was after one of his big games this year. He was talking at his locker, and Trent Williams, who's the highest paid player on the team, well, one of them, walked by and says, "Give that man 25 million.
Yeah.
Give that man 25 million." So they understand that what he's worth, what the market is, and that he's right there. And if the 49ers try to play some funny business and argue that he hasn't earned it or he needs to give them a break because they're whatever, I think players all around the locker room would look at the front office differently. Like, what's going on? Why are you getting cheap all of a sudden? You weren't cheap with Debo. You weren't cheap with me. What's going on? You weren't cheap with Bosa.
Yeah. And when Trent Williams says that, it tells you whose side he's on.
Of course.
He said it in front of the media. He wanted you to write it.
That's right. He did. It's
Yeah,
like, thank you very much, Kyle and Jed, for signing my checks and getting me paid and whatever, but I'm on Brandon's side. I'm looking out for Brandon.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know what? I'm on Brandon's side too.
Yeah.
With a certain caveat. I have very little patience, and I don't think he's in this situation. I have very little patience for players who I want to be the highest paid at my position.
Right.
That's all about ego, and it's not about economics.
Right.
I mean, no matter what they're going to pay Aiyuk, he's going to be set for life. So if he starts making what I would consider outrageous demands, like I want to be the highest paid in my position, he's not the best at his position in the league. There are better wideouts than he is. He should be able to agree to a hell of a lot of money that they're going to pay him. And I think
agree.
you should be able to agree with that.
I agree. I would imagine that 25 is right about what that's fair. It's interesting that Trent Williams said it. 25 is an interesting number because Debo makes just a little bit less than 24. So he doesn't need to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league, but he does need to be the highest paid wide receiver on the team. And that's significant because that's like a shift. The offense has been all about Debo for years. It was all about Debo in the Super Bowl to the detriment of the offense. This is a big shift, and the Niners need to acknowledge that this is now Brandon Aiyuk's offense, pretty much.
In terms of wide receivers.
Right.
Yeah, because they do have a good quarterback and a hell of a running back. So, yeah, I agree.
Right. The passing game should really go through Aiyuk.
Yeah. Absolutely. Iggy, do you think Debo is worth what they're paying him this upcoming season?
No, absolutely not. His cap hit's going to be $28 million, which is second most on the team after Trent Williams, and I don't see how they can really justify it. Only thing they could say is, look, we're not paying for our quarterback right now very much, so pretend we're spending that money on Brock Purdy or something. But this probably is the last year they can get away with that, and I'm thinking next year they probably got to trade him.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It would be almost like Armstead all over again.
Absolutely. And I'm surprised they didn't ask him to take a pay cut this year. They could have made the same argument with him that they made with Armstead.